Alrighty, so I was cut off on the last one for box plots notes, so we're still on that. I can only record 15 minutes and it cut me off. So let's finish up the last question. It says the minimum amount for car B was higher than the minimum of car A. So the minimum of car B was 160, and it says it was higher than or greater than the minimum of car B, which was 165. Well, that's certainly not true. So I'm going to put false, and evidently I'm not going to write right there. So that's supposed to be false. And all I'm going to do is change B to A and A to B, right? Because then we're saying that 165 is greater than 160. Okay, so make sure you have your statements rewritten as true statements. And we're going to look at our second example for today. So it says the box plots show the distribution of the number of DVDs sold weekly by two different stores. Okay, so we know this. Before we do anything, you have to analyze your graph, okay? So we are going to label the graph. I'm going to start with here. So it looks like each one, I go from 0 to 100, so between that would be 50. So I have 50 as my minimum. Looks like quartile 1 is 150. My median is 200. The quartile 3 is 300. And my maximum is 500. Then off to the side, make sure you put your range as well as your inner quartile range. So range is maximum, right, or spread, 500 minus the minimum, 50. You can probably hear the dog snoring, huh? Okay, so 500 minus 50 is 450. And then the inner quartile range, we're going to do the same thing, but we're talking about our box, right? Quartile 3 minus quartile 1. So 300 minus 150 is 150. So that's what we need to be analyzing. I'm okay if you don't write the median and things to the side if you have it labeled on your graph. Also, one thing that we learned yesterday that we haven't talked about today is mode, right? But since we don't have each data point, we cannot determine the mode from a box plot. So you'll never be asked mode on box plot. Okay, so again, let's analyze our box plot. So 100. This looks like it's between 200 and 250. So 225. My median is 350. Quartile 3 is 400. And my max is 450. Okay. So I'm going to make sure I have my range. So range is my spread. Spread your arms wide. So from 450 all the way to the right to 100 all the way to the left. It's 350. And then my inner quartile range, my IQR, is my box. So the farthest right side of the box is 400 minus the furthest left side of the box is 225. So let's see. 175. Okay, so now we are ready to answer our questions. Okay, so it says based on the information and the graphs, determine which statements are true or false. If the statement is false, rewrite it to make it true. So we're doing the same thing again. So here it says the center for store A. So I'm going to write the center for A. So the median, 200, is greater than the center of store B. Store B, the middle is 350. Well, no way, that's not true. So that's going to be false. So you can rewrite your statement just by changing the letters, right? So the center for store A, you can either say the center for store A is less than the center for store B, which would be great, or you can change the order and say the center for store B is greater than the center for store A. Make sure you have your sentence. All right, the next one says the difference in the spreads. So difference, right, is a key word. That means to subtract. This difference in the spreads for both stores is 100. So I'm looking at my spread, right, or my range. It says the difference between them, so 450 minus 350 is 100. Sounds good to me. Okay, store B is skewed more to the right, while store A is skewed to the left. Okay, so again, think about the tail. So most of the data is over here, so my tail is here. So I would say store A is skewed to the right. And then I'm looking here, and so half of the data is this tiny bit. Most of the data is here. I would say this is more skewed to the left. So sounds true to me. Next one says the interquartile range for store A is 75 more than the interquartile range for store B. This is a little tricky with the wording, so pay attention. Interquartile range for store A is, so store A, interquartile range, so 150, is means equals, so equals 75 more than. So I'm adding 75, right? So 75 more than the interquartile range for store B. So interquartile range for store B is 175. That does not look right to me. So false. And we can change it, right, by saying, let's see, so 175 to 50, we can say the interquartile range for store A is 25 less than the interquartile range for store B. That would work. Okay, and the last one says the upper quartile. So remember, the upper quartile is quartile 3. That's the far right side of the box. For store B is 1 1/3 times the upper quartile for store A. Okay, so the upper quartile for store B, so that's the right side of the box, 400, is, that's my equals 1 1/3 times, okay? So 1 1/3 times, right? Guys, we're just writing this in numbers. It's written out. We're going to write it in numbers. The upper quartile of store A. So upper quartile of store A, upper quartile here, the right side of the box is 300. Okay. So I need to multiply 1 1/3 times 300. Well, it's a repeating decimal, so I have to just change it to an improper fraction. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So 4 over 3 times 300 over 1, well, look at my diagonal. Divide by 3, I get 1. Divide by 3, I get 100. 4 times 100 is 400. So it's saying, actually, 400 is equal to 400. Sounds perfecto to me. Okay, so that is the end of your notes. And your next step is going to be to analyze and do your practice problems on your own. Okay, so I am going to only help you with just analyzing the graphs on the first couple of problems, and then you're completely on your own. Okay, so I just want to help you look at your maximums, your minimums, things like that. Okay, and you can go through and choose the best answer choice. Okay, so this graph, we're comparing first period and third period, and it says we're looking at test scores. So let's talk about first period. So let's look at our increments too. It says 48, 52. So between 48 and 52. So 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. So we're going up by 2. So this is 50, 54. Okay, so that means that my minimum, it looks like, goes down right between these. So I'm going to say my minimum is 51. My first quartile, or the left side of the box, goes down right between here, looks like. So I'm going to say 69. Oopsies. And then my median, man, am I having trouble with this? 71. Okay, and then my quartile 3 is right here. It looks to be 91. And my maximum appears to be 95. Okay, so now that I did that, I'm going to go ahead off to the side and do my range, right? So range is maximum, so 95, minus minimum, minus 51. And 44. And then our inner quartile range, or our box, right? So the right side of the box is 91 minus 69. So 91 minus 69. I'm gonna borrow on this one. 9, 10, 11, 6, 7, 8, 22. Okay. So now let's look at third period. So here it looks like 54. Then I have 56, 57, 58. For my quartile 1 was 58. The median, or the middle of my data, the middle of the box, 74. Quartile 3, the right side of my box, is 91. And then my maximum, my largest number, is 93. So again, we're going to do range. So maximum, 93, minus minimum, 54. 8, 13, 9, 3. Okay, so 39. And then IQR, or my inner quartile range. The right side of the box, 91, minus the left side of the box, 58. 11, 8, 9, 10, 11, 8, 3, 33. Okay. All right, so once that is done, then you get to dive into your problem. This problem here says, which of the following is the best comparison of the data? So we are looking for something that is true, the best one. So I'm going to just read them to you. It says A, both the range and the median test scores are greater for the first period class than the third period class. B says the range is greater for the third period class, while the median test score is greater for the first period class. C says the range is the same for both classes, while the median test score is greater for the first period class. And D says the range is greater for the first period class, while the median is greater for the third period class. So you're on your own to solve it. Now I'm going to analyze just one more with you guys, and then you're completely on your own. Okay, so let's look here. We're talking about scores again, but here we're comparing second period and first period on their quiz scores. So it looks like here we have 6. Between 8 and 10 is 9. It's my quartile 1. My median, the middle of my data, is 14. Quartile 3, or the right side of the box, is 16. And it looks like my maximum is 19. So range is 19 minus 6 is 13. My inner quartile range is quartile 3, 16. Minus quartile 1, 16 minus 9 is 7. Okay, now we're going to do the second box plot. So we have our minimum is 8, quartile 1 is 10, median is 13, quartile 3 is 17, maximum is 20. So range is 20 minus 8 is 12, and inner quartile range 17 minus 10 is 7. Go ahead and solve the rest.